Today, we're going to be talking about the 6 spokes of online marketing. So it should be pretty good. And I'm really going to talk about the different ways that you can leverage this. So basically, we created a system to help you guys market online, and it kind of gives you a framework to work off of. But just so you guys know, because I don't know if everyone here actually knows who I am, I figured it'd be good to give myself an introduction. So I'm Andrew Fogliato. I'm the founder of Just Sell Homes. We're a marketing agency. So I actually started as an agent, now is almost 9-10 years ago. I sold in Aurora, Ontario. So for those of you not in the area, it's about 40 minutes north of Toronto, roughly. So I sold for a couple of years, and I tried everything. I tell the story a lot. I did a lot of door knocking early on. I actually got a deal on the second house I ever door knocked, and I thought this was going to be the easiest career that I ever did. Ended up being just about the last deal I ever got door knocking. So the expectations did not meet. My 50% conversion rate really did not hold. But I did everything. I tried door knocking, cold calling, networking, a ton of different things. And what ended up working for me was online. I got majority of my leads in business coming from the online stuff. I probably got 70% of business from online, 30% was referrals from actually agents in my own office, who just basically I asked to deal with their overflow leads, which for most of them, that was their online leads. So it worked out pretty well for me. So I got a lot of experience, and then I got recruited by one of the big brands to train agents. I ended up traveling North America, training agents. Then every time I would train agents, they asked to just hire me to do it for them. And that's how we got here. So everything I'm going to talk about today is basically stuff that we do with agents out there now. So this is stuff we know works because we're out there in Canada doing it. Certainly we do work with some American clients, but 90+% of our business is in Canada, and it's coast to coast. So it's stuff that we've seen work all across the country. So first thing I always want to bring up, though, is I don't know if anyone else here is a history nerd like me. I actually got my degree in history, and I am a giant history nerd. And I really like to use the analogy of cargo cults. I don't know if anyone here is familiar with cargo cults, but basically, to oversimplify, in World War II, when the Americans were going towards Japan, they had to stop at some of the islands to set up basically supply posts so that they could supply the army as they get closer and closer. And what happened is some of those islands had indigenous tribes that never really experienced 20th century technology before. And when they were doing that, they would stop and look and be like, oh, like they made a radio, and then they were able to use that radio to call in a plane. The plane came, dropped off supplies, and they had everything they ever needed doing that. And so a lot of those indigenous tribes were like, oh, I want to do that. So they'd pick up a rock, draw it to look like a radio. They take bamboo and make what looked like a runway, and then they'd call for help and wait for the plane to arrive, not understanding the underlying technology that made all that work. They just tried to make it look like what they had, assuming that would work. The reason I use this is because that's how a lot of agents market, is they see what others are doing, they try to replicate it without understanding what actually makes it work. And that's a really common thing that we see. I remember very early on when I started my agency, we were working with this team that did about 450 deals a year. And so everyone in the market was always watching what they were doing. And it was funny, he brought us in, he's like, Andrew, I need you to help us with our online marketing because nothing we've ever done online has worked. And then the next sentence, he was like, by the way, I want exclusivity to your services because every time we do anything, everybody copies us. And what's funny with that is he had just finished telling me that nothing they'd ever done had worked before. So everyone's copying things that don't actually work. They just assumed it worked. So the goal today is to kind of get you into this understanding of what actually works online so that you can build out a strategy that works for you. So that when you go in and start implementing it, you'll know what actually is out there. And what we've done is we've basically created this framework called Wheelhouse Marketing. And the idea is if you follow this and have something for each section of the wheel, that you can get your online marketing going. And the reason I focus on a wheel is I think funnels are a little overrated, because as an example, people will say oh, you need top of funnel content that funnels to the middle of funnel and then spits clients out at the bottom, except there's bottom of funnel content that helps with the top of funnel. There's bottom or middle of the funnel can help with the top and the bottom. Like it is more wheel, because like here, when you're looking like content here that might work in the discover phase, and I'll explain all the different phases as we go through, can also be useful in the join or the trust phase. So yes, it's important to have different things at each one, but understanding that there's a lot of overlap and ways to leverage it. And then depending on where you are in your business, how you market can change. Like if I was a team doing 50, 100, 150 deals a year, I wouldn't need much else besides my listings to have a very effective marketing plan. But if you only have one listing a month or less, you can't rely just on listings to get new business. So you have to tailor the plan to also where you are in the business. And that's where a lot of people also miss. But before you build out your strategy, I always recommend you ought to figure out one thing. It's a concept called homesteading, which means that you want to basically plot out stake out your plot of land of what you want to be known for by the community. Like, do you want to be, the big mega agent? Do you want to be the one who's just very community focused and giving back? Like, there's a lot of different ways to approach this, but you want to be like, what do I want to be known for? Like, for example, one of our clients, his entire thing is he wants to be known for helping people build wealth. He only works with investors. He has a very specific way that he goes after it. He has a 7-figure a year business just going after investors who want to invest in pre-construction condos. So everything he talks about is related to that, because that's what he wants to be known for. So what you guys want to think about is, when you think of your clients, what do you want to be known for? Because actually funny, I was talking to an agent last night that I've known for years, and I was asking him something about his market, about like, hey, do you know like how the industrial real estate market's doing in your area? And he replied, he's like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm the fun realtor. I'm not the serious one. I'm here to help people, find a cottage, get a place where they can go jet skiing, move with their family. I don't get into any of that stuff. I don't get into investments. He's like, I'm the fun realtor. That's my brand. That's what I want to do. So sorry, I can't help you, but I could maybe refer you to someone who knows something about the industrial real estate market in our area. And I really appreciated that he didn't try to fake it. He's just like, I know what I know. I do what I do. That's what I'm going to go for. And this is what you want to figure out, is what do you want to be known for? Which potential group of clients do you want to go after? Then you can start building out your actual marketing. So the first thing we always want to talk about is getting discovered. That's kind of the first phase for a lot of this. And basically what that is you want to figure out is, how will people find out that you exist? Because for most of you, unless you're already one of the top agents in your marketplace, like most people can generally remember maybe 3 to 4 agents that are out there in a given market, like if they've lived in an area for a while. So how will you get them to discover that you exist? That's the first thing we're going to be looking at, is how will people discover that you're out there? So one of the easiest ways to do this is just, if you have listings, leveraging your listings, because that's ultimately what people are looking for. Buyers and sellers are more thinking often about where are they going next, as opposed to their current home. So having listings is a great way to get people to find out that you exist, because they're going to start looking. Like for me, I would do videos with every listing, and I would be in the entire video, because now I wouldn't be in there selling myself, talking about me. I would be selling the home. Like I would be doing this video, walking through and really showing everything about that home and showcasing all the reasons they'd want to buy it. Because that part of that is, I want people to find out that I exist on top of the home. I want to sell the home, and I want other sellers to see that and think, oh, I want someone doing that for my house, right? Instead of just panning across different rooms slowly. So that's how we're going to look at it, is like, how can I leverage my listings? Now, again, if you don't have listings, you have to look at a different way to get people to discover that you exist. A really great way to do that is creating content that supports whatever you decided for like your homesteading, like what you want to be known for, a type of content that supports that. So for example, what I did for my business, and if I went back to sales, like real estate sales today instead of agency, is I would do the same thing, just targeted to the local community instead of agents. And what I did is I just created a show, and I interview people that my audience I feel would find interesting. So for me, that is, I interview top producers and other people in the industry who might be able to help an agent's business. And I interview them over a pint of beer, and we literally just call the show Over a Pint. Very, very easy way to get discovered. And really what I'm doing is I'm picking guests that my potential clients would want to hear from, because now they're going to watch it. If I went back to sales, I would do this show, but with like local business owners, because one, it gets me in front of like, more people seeing me because it's content that's local, but then it also gets me a lot of networking time with local business owners who also have large networks. And because I'm doing it in person, I can have an hour, 2 hours potentially with people building relationships. But you don't have to do a show, because a show's not for everyone. Like, you could be doing blogging. This could be going hard on social media. You could do things that don't scale, like just going out to events all the time and being there where people discover that you exist by being at the events, and having booths at trade shows or something at a farmer's market. Like, there's lots of ways to get people to discover that you exist, but I really like the idea of creating content, and that content should support what you've decided that you want to be known for, and figuring out what's right and what do you have in your content. So when you're talking about what to put in your content, it can actually change quite a bit depending on your ideal clients. The easiest place to start, and this is where I always recommend, is the first batch of content you create should answer the 10 most common questions that you get from clients and potential clients. When you're out with people showing homes, when you're on the phone with them, what 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 questions do you get the most? So for example, like when I was selling, I would get 500 to 1,000 people a week to my website who would go on Google and search, what is a bully offer? Because a lot of people had no idea what a bully offer was at the time, and they would Google, what is a bully offer? I had content that's there, because if they're going to ask me that question, other people are going to Google it. Then once I finish that content, I'm now going to think about, what are the most common questions they should be asking, but they don't know to ask. The example here I like to use would be like, if anyone here sells cottages. If you sell a cottage or you're buying a cottage, you have to know what road shore allowances are. If you don't know what a road shore allowance is, you can cause yourself a lot of pain when you're buying a cottage. But the problem is most consumers just don't know what that is, or even to ask about it. So that's great content, is like, people don't know what they don't know. So it's like, here's stuff that you don't know that you should, I'm going to put that out there. And then here is the stuff that everyone asks, I'm going to put that out there. That's a great place to start. But what you want to think about is like, who's my ideal client? Like, if it's investors, just what would an investor find interesting? And generally speaking, when you look at the content you're creating, if you look at this and be like, well, this is dumb, or I don't even like this content, why are you putting it out there? Like, a pumpkin pie recipe or a reminder to change your clocks is not interesting. Like, people don't generally care about that. So think about like, what can you do that they would find interesting? And that's very dependent on who your ideal client is. Another way to get discovered are memes. A lot of people say, oh, they're professional all the time. But there's a way to do them strategically. Like this meme, when we are in like a real estate community of realtors, a lot of people find this meme pretty funny and they get it. But for example, you should never share a meme like this to your personal audience, because the local community won't find this funny. But what you can do when you see a meme like this is take out the text on top using a tool like Canva and put something in that's more community focused, right? So like, can you find something that's very unique to your area that would make sense? And that's where memes can work really well. Is basically the goal is to have someone read this and be like, like that person gets me. Like that's very relatable to me. And not a lot of people are creating that like really hyper local content. And memes are a great way, because what will happen is, say you like, as an example, so right now I live in Newmarket, Ontario. If I made a Newmarket themed meme based on like this template, for example, if you were in Newmarket, you found it, you thought it was funny, you're only going to share that with other people in Newmarket who would also get it. So it gets me in front of the right people. Now, memes will not bring you clients. Memes will not like make you a trusted source. But what it does do is that initial phase that it gets people to see that you exist. Then once they see that you exist, they're engaging with this. Now you can start showing them the other stuff that does get them to turn into clients. So that's where memes, strategically speaking, can have a very good use, but you do have to think about it strategically instead of just saying, oh, this is funny, I'm just gonna put it out there. There's a point to putting memes out there. And like I have seen accounts not in real estate, like actually there, one example would be like Slim Jim, the like meat sticks. They went from 50,000 followers to like well over 1 million in a fairly short time, just doing memes that their audience would find funny. Doing that can get you a lot of attention. So that's how you get discovered. The next most important thing here is having conversations. I think conversations are one of the most important way to build your business. At the end of the day, you have to have a lot of them. I think anyone who's been in the business and experienced any level of success will agree, like it's a very basic thing. You have to have them. But not all conversations have to be with you. It can also be triggering people to have conversations about you. And I'll talk a little bit more about some ways to strategically do that. But here, what you want to think about is, all right, with content I'm doing online, the marketing I'm doing online, is there a way that this will trigger someone to have a conversation with me? So one of the ways we do that in our organic social, so the stuff we're posting day to day on Facebook or Instagram or different things like that, is things like asking questions. So we like to ask questions. So as an example, you can be like, have you ever thought about buying, an investment property, or, what do you think about this area? So you ask people questions. Another way, you answer people's questions. So when you see someone ask a question, create content answering that. And then you can tag that person in it, answering the question that they had in a post. Advice needed is a great way. So as an example, you'll get kicked out of a lot of community Facebook groups if you go in there and start posting a ton of content, right? Like if you start putting homes for sale, different things like that, you'll get kicked out of a lot of community groups. Not all of them, but a lot of them. But what you can do is go and ask advice from people locally. So for example, I actually did this one time when I was selling, and it indirectly did lead to some business for me, where I basically went into a local group for Aurora, and I was like, hi guys, a client of mine that I've been representing just bought a home in Aurora. Their 10-year wedding anniversary is coming up. Where would you guys suggest is the best place for them to go in Aurora to have a 10-year anniversary dinner? And the amount of replied, the engagement was huge, and conversation started. Eventually, one of the restaurants even reached out and be like, we'd be happy to have them. And they brought them in, they set up something special for them because it was their 10-year anniversary. But when you think about how I wrote that post, I was like, a client of mine just bought a home that I've been working with here in town. I basically was including that I'm a real estate agent. I could have just as easily said, hey, someone I know is having their 10-year anniversary up, but I purposely added in that little piece that it's a client that I've been helping come to town. And so I've been asking people for their advice. Easy agent content when you're asking for advice, get new headshots done, put them up to your two options side by side and said, hey guys, just looking for feedback. Which of these headshots do you guys prefer? I got a new business card. Which one do you guys like better? Very easy engagement to get conversations started, and reply to everyone who does it. Other ones would be doing like a roll call, and that can be like, hey, who else finds this? Like as an example, in where I live now in Newmarket on Main Street, there's these two bakeries that everybody loves their butter tarts. And there's like a kind of a mini rivalry that has developed. And it's such like a random hyper local thing, but you could be like, who else thinks that this bakery has better butter tarts than this one? Or who else, like basically you want to go like, what's a hyper local thing I can do that gets people to respond? Because most people will just put out content that doesn't really encourage people to leave replies and talk to you. And whereas when you do that, where it's in that intention that like they almost have to reply to make it their point to the post, it can help a lot. One of the other ways on organic social that we really like to use is leveraging your clients. And I remember when I sold my house a couple of years after I started this company, even though I was still licensed, I didn't have time to sell it myself. I didn't want to. So I actually hired my old mentor to sell my home. And when it sold, I took a photo of the sold sign with the rider on it saying, thank you so much, Marcel and Barb, for selling my home. And what was funny is how many agents replied to my story saying, oh man, I wish all my clients would do a post like this. And that kind of triggered that. Like if you want someone to do something, you have to give them the tools to do it. So what we recommend doing for all of your clients, and Canva is a really easy tool to do this with, is go and create templates branded to you for their home. Like you see, like this could be their home. You could just slide in their stuff, has your branding on it, that you can give them for them to post on their own social. So what we recommend is like, take these branded things, even give them the caption and the hashtags to use and instructions, because then you can say like, hey, go post this on your social, it'll help. And you can put your contact information in the post that they're going to put out on their own social. And you can give them one sized for the different platforms. So we'd have one size for Facebook and Instagram feed posts. We'd have them sized for stories. But if you want someone to take a specific action, give them all the tools to do it. And what's nice with like a tool like Canva, and there's a lot of other tools that potentially do that, is you can create a template that every time you get a new client, you just flip in the new image, change the address, and now that's something that they can go out on their social media, and clients generally love this type of thing. When you're looking at social though, especially when our goal here is to create conversations, is considering the difference between like what's in the news feed and what's in the story. And then just out of curiosity, if everyone put in the chat, does everyone know the difference between stories and news feed, or should I explain that? Sounds a few power replies. You guys don't have to say messages go to everyone, but it looks like most people do this. Not really. Okay, so I'll explain. So basically, when you log into a Facebook or Instagram, what you see as you scroll down is your news feed. That's your news feed as you scroll through. Stories are like those little circles at the top. You click on, it pops up, and then you can go through the different stories. So when you're looking at, I want to create conversations with people, stories win every time. Because the nice thing with stories is when someone replies, it's private. Not everyone wants to like comment on a public post and put themselves out there like that. So they're less likely to have a lot of back and forth. But what we find when we post a story that encourages a reply by asking questions, you get inundated with replies sometimes. Like it's a great way to start conversations with a lot of people. And when I look at agents who are getting the most out of their social media, they focus way more on stories on platforms than they do on newsfeed posts. So I highly recommend when you're looking is like, how can I leverage stories to get conversations with people started? Because at the end of the day, the more questions you ask, you create conversations. Conversations will create relationships. Relationships create opportunities, and opportunities create sales. So whether it's online or in person, the more questions you can ask that create conversations, the more it'll ultimately lead to sales. Like you've probably, if you especially, I remember when I started, I can't remember how many times someone who'd been in the business 15, 20 years would say like, oh, you got to get belly to belly and talk to people. Well, you can do that online just as easily. You just got to put a little nick. Stories on which platforms? Instagram right now, we found is the best. I mean, everywhere has some form of stories at this point, it seems. But by far right now, most agents are getting the best results with Instagram stories. And there's some great ones to check out there. So a really easy thing to do on social, which I encourage everyone to do, is what we call the 555+1 rule. There's a lot of people who mention the 555 rule. Basically what this is every day you go on social media, you like 5 posts, you comment on 5 other posts. So this is just something to do every day because it's going to encourage engagement, get you more followers. But when you comment, it has to be what Facebook and Instagram would actually classify as what's called a significant comment. So if you're commenting on someone's post, a fire emoji does not count. That's just a different version of a like. You want to leave something that, again, creates a conversation. So if they post something about, say, like, oh, they posted the meal they got at a restaurant, it's very easy to be like, oh, that looks great. Did you like it? You've asked the question, they reply, you can have a little bit of a back and forth conversation now. Again, the goal here is to start as many conversations as possible. Then the last 5, so you leave 5 comments, you'd like 5 posts, and those should be separate posts. You don't like and comment the same post. So you like 5, comment on 5, and then 5 story replies. So this is basically 5 DMs, direct messages. So go on, look at stories that are out there from people locally and reply to 5. The +1 here is every week you add 1 to this. So this week, every day, go on, like 5, comment on 5, reply or DM 5 people. Next week, you do 6, 6, and 6, then 7, 7, and 7, until you find that number where you can't do anymore. Because what you find, if you do this type of engagement every day, it is one of the quickest ways to grow your business up through social. is you're engaging with people. It's not a one-to-one platform. It should very much be kind of one to like interactions that are happening across. Now, do you engage with real estate related posts only? No, I will engage with basically anyone local. It doesn't have to be real estate. It's actually often preferred not, because most real estate related posts is all from other agents, which unless you're recruiting people to join your team or your brokerage, not as valuable. So look at like people just posting locally. And then remember I mentioned before, like you want people to have conversations about you. This is one where it's an offline thing that impacts online. Is I like using GIFs as ways to get people talking. So as an example, you can see this bottle that I gave out. How much time do you think this needs in a day? The 555. You can do it in 10, 15 minutes. It doesn't take long. You can do it very quickly, or you can spend more time on it. That's where it's like the 555 plus one, right? Like you do 5 this week, next week you do 6, next week after that you do 7. You're going to find for you where that hits. Do you recommend to use our, what was the first, 5 Instagram story replies or DMs? So either directly DM someone or reply to stories. I recommend replying to stories because it's an easier conversation to start. Do you recommend we use our regular Facebook page or business page? For a lot of conversation-based stuff, your Facebook page, like your personal profile, is going to be better for conversations. I mean, at this point, your business page is really only useful for ads. Organic business page reach is basically dead. It's not that valuable anymore. So, but one thing I always like to bring out with giving people gifts, like it's a really popular thing in real estate, like on closing, to give a gift. And what a lot of people do is they put like their logo on something. And the problem with that is, one, people don't like wearing swag that much unless they're like going to the gym. And it doesn't ever get people to have a conversation about you. So like this is an example of a photo. I actually gave this bottle of whiskey to someone who, he normally charges like $20,000 speaking fee. He came to speak to a group of my clients one time for free, just as a favor. So I sent him this bottle, and if you notice on the middle of the bottle, it says the Nicholas Kuzmich edition, laser etched onto the bottle. That's a custom thing I got done for him. It's not that expensive. Like it's the cost of the bottle, and a laser etcher will do it for like 25 bucks. Great gift. But the nice thing about this is, one, as soon as he got it, he posted it on social, tagged me, and it was like, if you ever need someone, you know, in the real estate world who can do Facebook ads for you, Andrew's the guy. This is a great gift that he got me, yada, yada. He's talking about me. I've also sent this to a few brokers. And what happens is brokers put it on display in their office. They never want to throw out something that's engraved with their name on it. And then people come into their office and ask them about it. Now it's forcing them to have a conversation with me. Like we tried this with a client one time, and it has actually led to some business where they got the person a cutting board like engraved on their name with the client's name on it. And it was like a really cool one. And what happened is like people come over and be like, oh, that's really cool. Where did you get that? Now that triggers them to talk about you. It's like, oh, this real estate agent I worked with got that for me. Now they're talking about you. So it's like, you're not asking them to talk about you. So you're just putting situations around. Because again, if I gave him this bottle and I put my name on it, or I put like the Just Sell Homes logo on it, you would just drink it and then put it in the recycling or return the bottle for the deposit after. You're not going to go display a bottle that someone else's information is on, but if it has your name on it, you're almost never going to even throw that out. So it's a really effective way to do it. But think about like the gifts that you're giving them. Would this trigger a conversation? And then that conversation can be about you. Would they want to post on social media about it because it's so cool? Just my recommendation, if you're going to do this, do not do it and tell them you have to post about it ever. Like it's just a nice bonus when they do. But if you give them something good enough, a lot of people will want to post about it to thank you and show it off. So that's conversation. So the next one, and I think this is one of the most important points, and this is where a lot of agents skip, is the join phase. Because most people go from like having conversations straight to trying to get conversions. But we do want to focus on growing your mailing list. So we want people to join your mailing list. And the easiest way to do that is always have something that you can invite someone to. I mean, we all know the easiest one, which is, you know, sign up and I'll send you, the automated emails from my real estate board that'll tell you the new listings that come out. But always having something to invite someone to, that can be your newsletter you send out. It could be sold reports. It could be something about the community, but you always want to have something. Like we've seen clients who have done this with like, they do a monthly webinar. Well, no matter who they're talking to, they can be like, by the way, I have a webinar this month on how to invest in your first real estate property. If you'd like to join, give me your contact information and I'll sign you up for it. But you always have to have something. Being like, okay, great, I'll follow up with you later is not going to cut it when it comes to online marketing. So you want to think like, what do I have? And that's where I'm a big fan of newsletters, because of regular newsletters work really, really well. The problem is most newsletters suck. I'm just gonna say, like, most, they send it out once a month and that's it. But that doesn't, and it's like, how to winterize your home, 3 steps to winterizing your home. That's not great content. Or it's like, again, like I mentioned before, like a pumpkin pie recipe, and it's the same one that every agent's sending out. But for example, what we do with our newsletter, and we do the same thing for some clients as well, is we do community information. So once a week, we send out stuff that makes people a better agent. When we do this for clients, we do like send out information that makes them a better member of the community. So we let them know what's going on in the community, what local businesses have like maybe something new worth checking out, what events are coming up. But it's stuff that's interesting. Then we'll also put like, here's some notable sales. Here's a deal of the week that goes out. But every week at the same time, they're going to get valuable information that's not about you. It's coming from you. I always put a sponsored section. So like in my newsletter, I always have one section that promotes us, but the rest of it, 90+%, is focused on the people that we're trying to serve. And that's one of the best news you can send out. And don't be afraid to like put personality into these, make jokes in them, have some fun with it. It does work really, really well. So having a newsletter, because the nice thing with a newsletter that's good is that it's the easiest thing to always invite someone to. And once you have them on, they're going to hear from you 52 times a year. Another way to get people to join is forced registration. That annoys a lot of people. So we have found other ways to go about it as well. But at a base, like forced registering people, and if you're not familiar with forced registration, that's basically to look at listings, you have to give up your contact information. Sometimes that might be to look at anything, you have to do it. You can look at one, to look at a second, you have to register. Sometimes it's just to see the photos, you have to register. But the idea being, we're holding back information from you unless you give us your contact info. So what we've started doing is actually flipping the reason that they register. Now what we say is register for updates on this property. So what we've done is flipped it from an annoyance to a piece of value. So we'll actually start this in the coming soon phase. We'll do a video ad or an image-based ad with a photo of the home, being like, we're currently getting this home for sale, this home ready for sale right now. It's going to be going on the market in a couple weeks. Right now, we're having the photographer come through. We're getting the staging done. We're doing the research to figure out the right price to go to market with. But it's going to take us about a week and a half to 2 weeks until we can get this up on the market. If you want to get a copy of everything when it's ready, register for updates about this property. We'll send you the photos, the price, and then we'll even send you an update about what it sells for when the time comes for that too. So we're telling people, if you sign up for this, you can get updates along the way. People like that because now you're not withholding information that's already there. You're getting them first crack at information that they want. So it's a slight shift in the reason they're registering, but it accomplishes the same goal of registering them and getting their contact information in a way that they're happy with. The other way to get people to join your mailing list and get their contact is a lead magnet. And we use a term called a SAGE lead magnet, which is an acronym. So we want it to be short. That's the S. So it's the SAGE or the S in SAGE is for short. No one's reading an 80-page ebook. Like if you have the roadmap to selling your home, here's 80 pages, people are not going to read that. So we recommend like a 2 to 3 page PDF or a 1 to 3 minute video as that initial lead magnet that gets people information. And a lead magnet, just if anyone isn't sure, is just something that attracts people to give their contact information up in exchange for it. So it has to be something valuable enough that they're willing to give up their contact information for. So the first thing is short. The A in SAGE is for actionable, which means I can go do something with this information right now. So like the one you see on the right, a guide to prepare your home for sale, they can print it out. They can walk through their home right now and start getting their home ready for sale. Goal oriented, in this case, the goal is to get your home ready to sell, to make the most money for it. And then E is just easy to consume. So this is literally like a 2-page checklist. They can print it out. It's very easy to go through it and make it work for them. So when you're thinking about a lead magnet, be like, and this is where like a what's my home worth campaign is so popular. it's very short on their end to put their information in. It's actionable. You find out what your home is worth. Goal oriented, takes you that one step closer of knowing what you can sell your home for. And it's very easy. Just type in your address half the time, you can get it done. Like, it's a very simple way to do it. It's not always the best leads coming in off what's my home worth, but it can work. Some areas it's a little overdone, but when you're thinking about what can I put out there to get people's information, think of the term SAGE. The goal here is you're always building your list. Like, I hear this all the time when it comes to listings, this idea of, well, I don't need to market my listing because it's just going to sell itself. Well, the goal, especially if you have listings, is to leverage that to build your mailing list with, so that when you have something to sell down the road and then you might need help, you already have a list of people to go to instead of having to find people once you have something to sell. So it's building the group to sell to first, so that when you do have something you need help selling, you can go to them with it. So I know our marketing, everything's focused on building up our mailing list, because email still to this day has the highest ROI of anything online. I think a lot of people are have that thing of oh, email's dead, email sucks, people don't open emails. Email's still the most effective thing in online marketing, and it's not even close. It's just most people suck at email. There's a lot of ways we can talk a little bit about some specific emails to send, but email still to this day is one of the highest ROI things that exists online. Now, once you've got them on your list, you got to focus on converting them. This is probably one of the things that people struggle with the most, is how to convert people who join your list into actual clients. So what you're trying to do in this stage is you're not turning people who are a no into a yes. You're just trying to find the yeses. And what that means is, when you're going through these people who join your list, you want to find those of them who are willing to engage with you, are friendly and cooperative when they're doing it. They know what they want, they know when they want it, and they want your help to do it. If someone doesn't matches these 5, they go into your more longer term follow-up. But this is what you're trying to identify, is the people who match these when you're following up with these leads. And you're thinking about, when you're following up with them, which bucket do they all fall into? Are they going to move soon, or are they going to move later? There's a guy named Dean Jackson, who I'll talk about a bit later too, who did a study with a client. So he worked with this consulting with a real estate agent in Scarborough. And they took every lead that the guy generated in the first year. And then 5 years later, they took all those leads, did geo warehouse searches and all that, and found out that 50% of people who became a lead in 5 years had moved. So where they were at the time was different than where they are now. That is a significant amount that have moved. So if you think about in a 5-year period, 50% of the leads you get will have moved. That is much different than the 1 to 2% conversion rate that most think about with online leads. There's really just the 2 options. They're either going to move soon or they're going to move later. Your goal initially in your initial follow-up to conversion is to identify those who are moving soon, and then having a system. And this is where a regular newsletter, like I talked about, is really helpful, is that's going to stay in touch with them. Because even if someone says, no, I'm going to be moving for a couple of years, they might not be moving for a couple of years in their head, but that perfect house might come up 6 months from now, and then all of a sudden they move. I'm sure anyone who's been in the business for a couple of years can say someone told them to follow up in a year, and then 3 months later they bought a house with someone else. That happens. Plans change, lives change, and their real estate plans might change. So having something that continually follows up with them. But when you get a lead in, I think this is where a lot of people make mistakes, is they don't actually follow up with them, or they don't keep the process going the right way. And we leverage double dip offers. But basically the idea here is I don't know, have any of you guys heard the story of you let me know in the chat. It's a fairly popular one in some marketing materials, of how many people here have heard the story of the airport trying to solve the problem that everyone was complaining about how long it took to get their bags. Have you guys heard that? I think it was Denver. It was either Denver or Austin, Texas, I believe. But basically, the airport was getting a ton of complaints from travelers that they had to wait for their bags too long. And they were trying everything they could. They figured out ways to get the bags quicker to the carousel. And eventually they figured the fastest possible way to get bags to the carousel. And what happened was the complaints stayed. Everybody kept complaining still, even with getting it there. I think they dropped it by 50% the amount of time it took there. So how they ended up solving this was they made the walk from the plane to the carousel longer. So by the time, so they knew it took them 7 minutes to get to the carousel, they made it an 8-minute walk. All they did was make, because to them, when they're walking, it feels like they're making progress to get there. That walk is completely useless, other than it keeps them busy while they're getting to the bags. And basically, they removed 100% of the complaints that were there. Sorry, Andrew, two-part question. Can you please repeat what is the G in Sage? Goal-oriented. And second part, can we quickly return to slide 29 for the questions to ask when deciding which bucket to put lead into? Yeah, so when you're trying to decide which one to put leads into, it's really like, are they moving soon or are they moving later? It's pretty straightforward. Like, are they ready to go in the next, say, like 30, 60, 90 days? Everyone else gets put into your long-term follow-up. Questions, just like find out about their motivation for moving. So this is like asking the question, like, what's causing the move? When do you want to be into your next place for? What do you need? Like finding out about their personal situation. So, and this is one thing, just when you're talking about lead conversion, focus less on what they want in a property. So don't ask them like, okay, well, how many bedrooms do you want? Instead, find out why they're moving. Because like them saying, oh, well, my wife's pregnant and we need an extra bedroom. That gets you the same interest. This is a 5-star prospect. So this is not specific questions. This is what you're looking for in a lead. So you want people who are willing to engage with you, who are friendly and cooperative when they do it. They know what they want and when they want it, and they want your help to do it. This is just basically how we look at what counts as a 5-star prospect. So when you're getting your leads, you're trying to identify the 5-star prospects within those leads. So again, like I was mentioning, so the double dip offer. So when we look at online lead conversion, you guys have probably all at some point heard the term speed to lead, right? Like how important it is to get to a lead really quickly. And I think that approaching it from that angle is the same as how the airport initially treated the baggage claim. Is they're looking at how can I get the bags to the carousel quicker, when the solution wasn't actually to get the bags there quicker. It was to have them take them longer to get to the bags. And this is where we use something like this. So what happens when a lot of people generate a lead is they send them a page that says, thanks, we'll be in touch. Now it's on you to follow up quickly so they don't forget who you are. What we have started doing, and we've done this quite a bit, is now they opt in. We say, thanks for, that the guide on how to prepare your home for sale is going to be in your inbox soon. Now we give them another offer. So now what we'll do is like, so they've opted in on a guide on how to prepare their home for sale. We'll be like, the guide to prepare your home for sale is going to be in your inbox in a few minutes. Do you want to know what your home would sell for if you're listed on the market today? Click below and there'll be a form for you to fill out, and you can answer a couple questions and we'll be able to give you a good idea of what your home would sell for if it was on the market today. Then they go fill that out. Now you got a request for a home evaluation. Then from there you can be like, great, we will be sending you shortly on top of the home prep guide, a home evaluation report. Now you can go look for properties for sale to see where you're going to go next. Now you can send them there. So it's giving them something to do, which gives you a little bit more of a buffer to actually talk and like follow up with them instead of having to be like, oh, I got to call them in 30 seconds and I got to be the quickest person out there. I'm going to lose them. Give them things to do that make them feel like they're making progress and getting value from you, instead of just trying to be as quick as humanly possible. Yes, it's good to be quick, but if you're with a client, you're not going to leave a client in the middle of an offer to go make a call to a lead that came in. So one of the easiest ways, and this comes from Phil Jones, who actually wrote the book, Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents, is when you get a new lead in, you want to start with this: a polite introduction, a mutually agreeable fact, and then an easy to answer question. Because again, all the goal we're working on here is you want to create a conversation with them. So as an example, this could be like, hi, it's Andrew from Sutton. You're recently looking at properties on our website and show some interest in 123 Main Street. Are you interested in this for yourself or as an investment? That can be the entire first message that goes out. Because again, all you're trying to do here is get a conversation started with them so you can learn more about them. Then when you learn about them, you can learn how you can help them better. And it's just a lot of questions that you have. So once you start to learn about them, now you can decide, are these people going to be ready to move soon, or are they going to go more into my later bucket where, they could easily be months or years away from moving? If they're going to be months and years away from moving based on the conversation you're having with them, now you just put them into your regular content. And so, like I was mentioning, a weekly email to me is your best bet. But they can be going to your social, they could be doing different things like that, but sending them something regularly. If you don't want to create like a long email like this, a very easy one that you could all do is a deal of the week. So every week you just say, this to me is the best deal on the market right now. I'm going to send it over to them. It could be here's what's sold on the market and what it's sold for in the last week, because that's stuff that people care about. If you have a little more time, I recommend doing like a community focused one. They do perform very, very, very well. But a deal of the week is a very easy one for you to do. And that's stuff that people like, because everybody is always looking for a deal potentially. So regular content that goes out. Calls to action can also go to something like Calendly. Just out of curiosity, you let me know in the chat, how many of you know Calendly and have ever used it before? I'm curious how many people know what it is or have used it. John uses it. It's a great tool. I've been using it for years and I love it. It doesn't look like a lot of people know, or you just don't want to answer. But basically what Calendly is it's a tool that hooks into your calendar and will show when you're open. So people can book calls right into your calendar. So when you're regular follow-up, we always include our Calendly link to be like, when you're ready, here's some ways that we can help you. But most people, when they sign up for Calendly, just set it to like a default, a 15-minute meeting, 30-minute meeting, or 60-minute meeting. Like those are just the default names, and that's on there. What we recommend doing is changing it to have specific names to the calls. Like we have one client who's actually in Saskatoon. His Calendly is like, do you want me to tell you what your home is worth over Zoom? Click here to book a Zoom home valuation walkthrough. Click here to book a consultation on selling your home. Click here to book a listing presentation. Click here to book a buyer presentation. And basically, he set up these different meeting types. So when someone ends up on his page about booking a call, they can actually self-select which one applies to him. Like he'll even have one that's like considering a career in real estate, book one here. And you can limit some of them, like how much they can book. Like for example, my option here that I have called Pick My Brain, I started getting a lot of calls and I'm happy to do them because a lot of people when I first started out helped me out. I still like doing those, but I mean, I remember the first week I put the Pick My Brain option on it, ended up having 20 of them booked. And that took a lot of time out of my schedule. So what we started doing is like the Pick My Brains actually limited how many can be booked at any given time. So it allows me to control my schedule a little bit more because you can set limits on like, you have to have buffers between them. You have to do this. The only thing, if you're gonna use something like Calendly, your calendar always has to be up to date. We set up one like this for a client, started running ads to get people to book times in her calendar. And because she didn't keep her calendar up to date, she ended up double booking stuff with clients. So it does require you to keep your calendar up to date, but it's a very good tool for getting people to book calls with you. And then putting specific meeting types that are useful to what you're doing. Then you get people to convert to clients. It's still, you got to build their trust, right? Just because they hire you doesn't mean they're going to trust you right away. Like they probably trust you more than the next person. And trust, this part of the Wheelhouse Marketing, more than any other part, is in all of them, right? Like when you're doing discovery content, it's stuff that can build trust. I don't necessarily, like not all of the content that I do to get discovered is for trust. Like you guys, like the show I mentioned, Over a Pint, you watching me get drunk with someone in the real estate industry is not necessarily going to get you to trust me with your business. It gets you to know who I am. But then because of that, you're now going to start seeing the content that builds trust. So what can you put out? One of the easiest ways to do that is how-to content. Like for example, I put out this video, I made a 3-minute video as a screen share of, this is not even relevant anymore, but how to certify compliance on a disapproved ad on Facebook. A lot of people search this, and 28,000 views for a video that literally took me 3 minutes to create. I think it took me 2 minutes to edit and 5 minutes to upload. And like that graphic was a template, very quick and easy to do. Like total time maybe was 15 minutes, 28,000 views. And it's built a lot of trust with people because I've shown them how to get over a hurdle. So how-to content definitely is one of the strongest ways there is to get people to build trust, because you're showing them how to do something themselves. There's a misconception out there a lot of the time that like, oh, if I show them how to do it, they're not going to hire me. And I've always found the opposite to be true. If you show people how to do everything, they're actually more likely to hire you because they trust that you're going to do it right. Client testimonials, unbelievably important part of this as well. I don't like just leaving it on like a testimonial page on your website though. Like everything you do, you can embed testimonials in it. You can put them on landing pages. You can put them throughout your website. You can add them in part of your email signature even sometimes. But any marketing that goes out there, if you can let your clients say something nice about you instead of you saying it, it's going to usually perform better. So I think it is really important. If you're looking for a place to get them, I'd recommend something like Google reviews. I don't really care about Facebook ones. I feel like on my own page, I can just turn Facebook reviews off. And we'll push people to Google instead, or a tool like Rank My Agent. If you want to do run for sold, so this is an interesting one, is that especially in the market now, consumers hate it, where you do something like, hey, I just sold this in 3 days for 110% of asking. They don't like that. They're like, we know that you just listed it under what it would sell for, so sold over asking means nothing. What we started doing is pivoting to calling it a case study. So now instead of just saying, hey, we sold some 3 days for 100% of asking, we'll be like, our clients, John and Sarah, came to us because they had to sell their home. They were having a baby and they needed something a little bit bigger. So we came over, we looked at their home, and we realized a couple of rooms needed a coat of paint. A few of the rooms needed to be staged to showcase their highest and best use. Then we had a professional photographer come in, our videographer come in. We did this, and this to figure out the price, and we were able to get that up for sale. It got up for sale on a Tuesday. With all the marketing we had done, it generated 86 showings, got 8 offers, and they actually got $50,000 more than they thought they were going to get. That story is going to get you way more goodwill and potential clients than just saying, hey, we sold this in 3 days for 100% of asking. In terms of details to share, you have to use your judgment client to client and ask the client if you're going to tell their story. So like if you're like, John and Sarah got pregnant and they were going to have a baby, so they needed a bigger home. Ask them if you can say that. Otherwise, you say a client came to us because they needed to sell. Here's what we did to get it ready, yada, yada. You're not going to go be like, so John's been cheating on Sarah and they're getting a divorce, so they got to sell their home. You got to be able to, again, use your judgment of how much personal details to share. The more you can share, the more relatable it comes to people. Your goal telling the story of the sale is that you're trying to get other consumers who were in their position before they called you to be like, I relate to them and I want to be where they are now. Well, the easiest place to get where they are now is to hire the person who got them there. That's you. So that you're telling that story with them as the hero of the story. I'm a giant nerd, so I always like to use the analogy of like, you're the Yoda to their Luke Skywalker or the Obi-Wan to their Skywalker. You're not the hero of the story, they are. Another great way to build trust is strategic partnerships with people. So look at like who else is targeting the same audience. That could be things like, obviously like lawyers and mortgage brokers are the really obvious ones here. But for example, when I was selling, I became very good friends with a local owner of a CrossFit gym. Well, it's a very easy thing to now to leverage the CrossFit network and the trust that he has with them to get in front of them that way, to leverage things that way. So we started doing like, you can do work with that. I made partnerships with actually for me, it was the local RBC branch, and they started hosting seminars and inviting all their clients to it. I just had to come with the content and pulling clients out of it that way. But think about who else is targeting the same people as you, and how can you create a partnership with them to go after them together and provide them as much value as possible. And there's a lot of ways online, like look at like who locally has a big account that gets a lot of engagement that you can leverage to. Then once they trust you, now you got to earn their loyalty. One of the things I always like to point out here is that a lot of people treat their database as like an audience. So it's like you're talking to them, and it's a very one-way piece in that sense. Like, say let's oversimplify, you have 10 past clients. Obviously, a lot of you will have more than that unless you're just starting out, but that's 10 individual relationships siloed off. You want to get a community feeling, which means that you also want to get your clients talking to each other, engaging with each other, because if they feel that sense of community that became because of you as their agent, they're way more likely to recommend you and be engaging with you so much more. Like people that I invited out socially after they were clients, like those people referred me more than anyone else. And that's where you're thinking is like, how can I get my clients also interacting with each other? And I just became the hub of this community. One of the best ways to do that are client events. Again, ones that might encourage them to post online. It's like, I always recommend doing a quarterly client event. One would be like, and depending on like religion and things like that, but like Santa photos. So instead of like having your clients wait at a mall in line, hire your Santa yourself, get your photographer to come out, book a time and place, and just have your clients come and then get free Santa photos every year. They get to know each other. And then, if that's in, the early, late fall, early winter, that's one. Then in the spring, do family photos, do a pub night. One that we really like is like movie theater nights. The nice thing about events like that are really cool. Like we had a client who rents out a movie theater every year. The ticket is a non-perishable food item, and he gets them to see whatever the hot new release is. And people post about that online and tag and be like, thanks so much for inviting me to this. Or like when they get that photo of them with Santa in like a really cool venue that they didn't have to wait the mall for, a lot of people post those types of like family photos and things online, and they'll thank you for getting that for them. And that's another great way to get more attention on social and build loyalty, is by providing these like ongoing pieces of value. And the cost of a photographer and a guy in a Santa suit for a day really isn't that much in the grand scheme of your marketing budget. The other thing here I like to do is very specific referrals for different things. The word tactical actually is just in there as an inside joke with someone. There's a trend on Facebook ads for a long time of adding tactical to everything. And it really jumped the shark when people were selling tactical sweaters. But really it's referrals, right? But this is referrals to trusted people that can help them, like someone who they need someone to renovate their home. You want them to come to you to find out which contractors do you trust. That can build a lot of loyalty, knowing that they can always count on you to have someone that can help them out. A great email that we do every year is on the anniversary of their purchase, send them a new CMA. And you can make this very, very simple. They log in and it just says something like, thank you so much for, it's been a year since you bought your home. The market's been up 3%. So if you haven't done anything to raise or lower the value of your home is now worth an extra $25,000. Then you can add something in like, have you ever considered using the equity in your home to buy an investment property? Because you probably have enough now, right? You can use these tools as a way to start another conversation about what potential next steps could be. Insider perks are another great one. There's an agent in the Toronto area who she's a bigger team, so she has the budget to do this. She hired a handyman on staff, and anyone who's a past client, gets 1 day a year where the handyman will come to their house and do anything that they want. So basically they can give the to-do list. He will come and spend the day fixing stuff up around their house. So every past client gets 1 day a year with a handyman. Days he doesn't have anything to do, he comes to her house and fixes her own house up. And then if like, one of their clients has like little things to do to get it ready for sale, he'll also go and help out with that. So because she has the budget to do this, it's actually a really effective tool for her. And then any opportunity you can to surprise and delight people, basically unexpected ways to make them happy. So like, if you give someone a gift at Christmas, it can be expected. You give them on a random Tuesday in September, that's a surprise, and they can make them really excited. So think about like, where can you surprise someone with something unexpected? And those can also help quite a bit as well. And I'm just going to wrap this up quickly. We're almost at the end. Client life cycle. So this is where I'm talking about before, right? Like, so you get someone to discover who you are, you start having conversations, they join your list, you convert them into a client, you build their trust, you earn their loyalty. Well, for example, with like the annual CMA, now you're going to talk to them about how they can leverage that equity to buy an investment property. Then they discover the opportunities around that. They start having a conversation with you about buying an investment property. They join your list about getting an investment property sent to them. You convert them into buying one. Now you've earned their trust because you've helped them build their net worth. And now you've earned their loyalty because you've potentially built something up that they can help with their family. Like, it can keep going on. And you want to think about, over the course of your client's life, how can you help them achieve those goals? And you almost want to plan that out very strategically. And then you start creating content and different pieces of your marketing that support each of those life cycles. So I'll leave this up for a sec. You guys can take some screenshots. Basically, here's like, we filled out some of the ideas around what you can put into it. So like I was mentioning, like shows and podcasts can help you get discovered. SEO, paid advertising, how-tos I generally will put in either discover or trust because they do accomplish both quite well. And then how to have conversations and different things like that. So again, it's a really effective way to market your business that if you have something for each of these, it can really help take your business, and it gives you the idea of like, all right, now I know what I'm doing and the goal of it to help you start getting results. If you do have any questions at all about how to accomplish anything or just clarification, I'm happy to stick around for questions. I know we're a little bit over time now, but if you guys have questions, I'm happy to stick around for a little bit. Or this actually just links over to my Calendly. I'm happy to, like, if you want to book a call to have some questions, I'm always happy to answer them. Otherwise, again, if you guys have questions, let me know. I'm happy to stick around and answer them. Will the presentation deck be available? I can certainly make it available. I can send that to John after if you guys like. I think he is sending out the recording after. But so if you guys have questions, again, you can either unmute yourself, put it in the chat. You're welcome. I appreciate all the messages. But yeah, again, if you have questions, please unmute yourself, put it in the chat. I'm always happy. Awesome. Glad you guys found it useful. This is actually a brand new recording. You're actually the first people to see this one. So I'm glad that you guys like it. I just finished developing this about 3 weeks ago. It's something we've been working on for a while. So I'm glad you guys, again, first ones to get it. Outside of my staff, I made my staff sit through it just to work out any kinks that I had. You're welcome. All right. It doesn't look like there's any questions coming through, just a lot of great messages. Appreciate that. 3 pages of notes. That's awesome. I'll ask one thing. Go follow me on Instagram. I have a competition with my team to who can get the most followers by the end of next month, and I have to pay them each $500 if they beat me. So help me win. Go follow Andrew Fogliato on Instagram. Let's see. That's pretty well. Thank you. Just going through, making sure I didn't miss any questions. What is your tag? At Andrew Fogliato. So if you look at my name where my photo is, it's just my full name on Instagram. That'd be great. I'll follow you guys back too. Is there a simple way to simply set up slots in Calendly rather than with the calendar? So when you sign up for Calendly, it actually makes it very straightforward to do. You can just set up a few of them. It's very, like, Calendly is one of the easiest ways to get it. So, but I'll put my tag on Instagram there. It's just my name. Is it possible to have a summary on PDF format? Actually, what I can do, I did a blog post that's about 3,500 words breaking this down too. I'll put that in the chat now while we're here. So we basically just did like a big blog post on the topic. I think if you guys want to go back over, there's a lot of great info there. And it breaks down like some more latest blog posts, break down some of the stuff we talk about as well. So let me put that into the chat here. So that blog post is basically 3,500 words breaking down this whole process as well. So again, if you have any questions, let me know. We will be posting more on my Instagram. That's work related right now. It's all personal. Mario, you had a question?
Andrew, thanks. The presentation was awesome. I'm from Sudbury, third year in the business.
Yep.
39 houses so far in 2 years.
Nice.
For about 450 realtors in Sudbury, population of 160, give or take. I've gone to radio for a month, spent big bucks on that. I put a billboard up, spent big bucks on that, and there's not really much coming back this way. Any recommendations on where I can go to get to the next step? Or
yeah, like when you're starting out, like billboards, radio is not like, to me, billboards and radios are for top agents in the sense that like now they're trying to be everywhere. At your size and like starting out, you have to be a lot more strategic with your spend.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like if I'm a top agent and I have a $20,000 a month marketing budget, absolutely I'm going to include things like radio and billboards. Because like, for example, in Sudbury, if you spent even $3,000 a month on Facebook ads, everybody would see you, because like the population size and the cost of Facebook ads, it would really do a good job getting in front of everyone. But say you up that spend on Facebook from 3,000 to 10,000, now you're just like oversaturating it. So then there's an argument to take some of that budget now move it over to somewhere like a billboard. So you'd want to think about like, what do you want to be known for? So the first question I was asked, like, who's your ideal client, right? Like, who is that?
So out of my 39 deals, I think about 80% have been seniors, 60 plus.
So first thing is, where are they? Right? Like, and when you talk about seniors, are we talking about people just downsizing their home to like a bungalow, or people going to a nursing home type of thing, right? Like those are also very different, the type of content. Because like we're working with a client right now, she does go after what she calls seniors, but they're active seniors. Okay. So they're people who, you know, they do want a smaller home, or they want to take the equity out of their home to fund a more fun retirement, right? Like, versus someone who just wants to sell their home because they have to move into a nursing home. Okay. And so you think like, what are the challenges that they have? So for something like an active person, be like, what can you do? How can you leverage the equity in your home to take more to travel more, for example, or to buy a place down south? Which if you're going after the nursing home group, it's like, what do you do with a home, and how do you leverage that equity to get, you know, what's the best nursing home in Sudbury type of thing? Different content depending on who you're going after.
Because all the big agents in Sudbury all have, seems like they video all their listings, and video seems to be the way to go. And guess what? Every realtor now is starting to do that. And I don't want to copy everybody else, like you said. Right?
So when you're advertising a listing, you still want to do video. Like there's a great one. I'll put it on here. If you look up I'll put it in the chat. Property Grams, look up them on YouTube. Yep. They'll do like 10 to 15 minute video walkthroughs. They're not agents. They sell homes for like builders. Okay. But what's interesting about them, and most agents don't do a video like that, is they walk through the home for 15 minutes and will sell the home and tell you, it's like, you know, they're like, you know, they put this here to bring the light in from over here and do this and do this. Like what I like about Property Grams as an example is the main guy. So go back to the original videos. I think they've hired someone else to help with videos now. The guy's not like a charismatic, funny guy. He tries to be funny. He's really not. But it's the perfect example of like, here's how you can do really well on video without being this big personality necessarily, right? Like it's just be the expert on, like, know more about that house than anyone else. Because someone who's looking at buying a house will watch a 15-minute video. Like when we bought this house here, the video was 3.5 minutes. My wife probably watched that 50 times all the way through. Like I have that stupid elevator music still stuck in. And if I hear another listing video using that same music, I can pinpoint it right away. But, yeah, and then you can cut that video up for social and do different things like that.
Awesome, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions while we're here? Yeah, this is the best time to get questions because we're here live. I'll do my best if you have like questions after on email, but I can sometimes take longer to read.
Do you do any type of one-on-one with brokers to kind of
a little bit?
Yeah.
So like depends on exactly what you're looking for from like a one-on-one perspective. So like we take clients on and help them with this stuff. We also have like a 6-week one focused on organic social. So with brokers specifically, it's usually with their staff where it's like a 6-week. Sometimes the broker sits in on it. But that's the thing, if you set up either send me an email or book a time to chat, we can see what would fit right for what would be the right fit for you.
Yeah,
guys.
there's just a couple of areas. Like I said, I've taken a lot of notes, but there's a couple of areas that we would love to have your insights. So that's great. We'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah, and like if you look at the sale or the my Calendly, like the bookangel.ca, like there's a couple options there that are free. Like you can pick some of those and we can kind of go through some options there. There is like a one-on-one hour consulting rate in there if you want to go straight to consulting, but if you want to like pick my brain first just to see what might be the right fit, don't book a paid one to start.
Okay, perfect. Noted. Thank you.
All right, awesome. I think that might be all the questions. So anyways, I appreciate you guys coming today. It was great chatting with you. And again, if you have questions that come up later on while you're doing anything, feel free to reach out anytime. I'm always happy to answer them. But thanks everyone for coming. Appreciate it.